Most businesses don't fail because they're unprofitable. They fail because they run out of cash at exact the wrong time and then they panic borrow. Today's guest is Leyton Jeffs from Sedulo Funding, and he sees the same pattern on repeat. Directors like you leaving funding too late. They hope people pay them early, they hope for a big month that'll save them, and then they end up on the call saying we need money for wages by Friday. So we're going to talk about the real stuff, how to fund a business before you're desperate, what lenders actually look at when funding smart against when it's just plugging holes, and the truth about the growth guarantee scheme. If you're a UK business owner and cash flow keeps you awake at night, this episode could save you a fortune. Leyton, welcome to the Director First podcast. Thank you for making the short journey over from Manchester to Preston. Welcome to the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the invite. I'm looking forward to it. It should be a good day.
Bloody hell, I hope we're not going to be here all day. He charges it's far too expensive by the hour, this videographer.
Well, I'm a bit outside my comfort zone, so if we can get through it quicker, that'd be great.
Right, you're going to be sound. First question I've got for you. You mentioned on one of your posts about a business owner, he's rang you, he's panicking, he cannot make payroll, and you basically couldn't get him funded.
Yeah.
What's the real lesson there for directors who can sort of see problems coming forward? What should this guy have been doing instead?
I think the problem with this one in particular, but also a general thing I see is quite often business owners burying their heads in the sand a little bit, and usually what happens is cash flow issues don't. There's not like one big bang that causes the problem. It kind of creeps up on you a bit at a time. And most people should be able to foresee those coming, but typically just bury their heads in the sand and kind of almost crack on with a bit of kind of Einstein's definition of madness or whatever. I'll just carry on doing the same thing. Yeah. The reality is the earlier the problem is highlighted, the easier it is to get around that speed bump. If if the issue's right on your toes, it's always difficult because your bank statements look worse, you might have missed some payments, your creditor positions got worse, you might be behind on HMRC. If you can spot the problem more in advance, it's much easier to solve.
I think a lot, obviously I get the same thing doing what we're doing is people calling us when there's a petition on the doorstep, and it's not come overnight, that has it?
Absolutely.
I think, for me it's like, I try and think to myself, well, why do some business owners pick the phone up early and some people just don't want to face it? And I think for me it's like, it's acceptance, isn't it? It's like, do people want to say that they're struggling? And I think these conversations are there to really break down those myths and say, if you get something early enough, if you reach out and go, I've got an issue here, it's not always terminal. I imagine most of your inquiries never end up with somebody like me, do they?
Yeah, well, they do sometimes. I often wonder whether it's like the times we live in now, I won't say how old you are, Chris, but I've been around long enough to know other times pre-social media. But I do wonder nowadays with like things like LinkedIn, Instagram, and all that. Like everyone lives a perfect life, don't they, on social media?
Yeah.
And because of that, whether that then means people don't want to put the hand up and say they need help because it's a sign of weakness or it's an ego or something like that. But I think that's a real problem with the kind of the landscape of the times we live in as much as it is an individual one.
So for me, like, I ended up in insolvency because I went through an insolvency.
Oh, okay.
And I remember the time for me, it was difficult, it was like, and I was that guy, I was like, this will get better. Like I used to have a bookcase of all this personal development, Tony Robbins, gratitude, like I'd read hundreds of books, done hundreds of seminars. And it used to teach me, think positively. It'll get better. And the truth is that was dangerous in my position because it wasn't getting any better. And I felt really judged. You know what I mean? When I finally reached out, and obviously I listen, my stories, I talk about it a lot. I spoke to a lot of insolvency people, and that their bedside manner was terrible. Like, I hadn't done anything wrong, but I got made to feel like I was a criminal, like I was a naughty schoolboy. I was spoken down to. I had the insolvency out spouted at me, and yeah, it was a really difficult time. You know what I mean? And I just didn't want to. I didn't want to admit I was struggling to anyone.
Yeah, I think some of it as well is a kind of maybe what people expect of men, especially kind of in today's world, of being a bit more stoic or kind of not sharing their problems as much. And you see a lot of issues that come out of that. You know, with some great charities now like Andy's Man Club and things like that are helping men to share problems and be more open and stuff like that. But I do wonder whether historically there's a bit of a societal thing of men keeping things to themselves and being stoic, and being stoic seen as such a great thing, and it is in some cases. But if that then means you feel like you can't share a problem, or you don't want other people to know that you are struggling, then that can cause a real problem.
I mean, you're the head of a hell of a company. Yep. You must be dealing with problems yourself. I mean, where do you? I know for me, sharing I have a few close-knit people that I can tell what's really going on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, I don't. Obviously, I do a lot of social media.
Yep.
I never post. Listen, I'm full of fear today. I think it's all going to end. Blah blah blah. I've got this issue here. I'm not sure about this. I'm really self-conscious about what that over there is saying about me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the
I
truth
put on a
is,
few pounds.
Yeah. Well, the truth is that I have those. I have those worries, those fears, those anxieties. But I've got like a team of people who I can pick the phone up and say, "Listen, can I run by my thinking?" Who's your go-to?
Similar, really. Kind of family's important. I'm a big family man. You know, wife, two kids who are still kids. One who's a bit older now. So they're really useful. It's great to, you can share stuff with your partner, but also I've kind of got business partners as well. So we're a close bunch, and being able to share stuff with them, because every business goes through trials and tribulations, right? We're a business that grows 30 to 40% year on year, and we have done for 10 years, and because of that,
that is insane.
Yeah, and people think, wow, that's great, and it is great, but God, it's mental as well. It's such a roller coaster, and you're growing at such a rate. Whilst the profit comes through, cash flow is a different element, and there's always those things kind of under the surface, and you're running a business, and we employ 230 people, and so you're kind of banging the drum and keep people on the bus, and during quieter times there's issues that come with success, and there's issues that just come with business activity that you kind of you can't let everyone into, because you're trying to keep them on the bus of this positivity. But there's definitely things that you do need a close group of people around you to be able to share that stuff with, and thankfully business partners are really good like that.
Can you tell me about the journey on Sedulo as well? Because I come across them probably a few years ago.
Yep.
I just heard of them. I ended up walking into your office, I think, at Christmas time. It was a strange office. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? I've been to loads of accountants, funding places, and it never quite looked like what you had going on there.
Sure. So Sedulo as a business started 16 years ago, so we're babies really in terms of our competition. Businesses that have been going for hundreds of years, and started as accountancy really. We call ourselves business consultants, and really what we provide is a one-stop shop for a business owner to come from setting up a business to growing that business and going through the trials and tribulations we've talked about, to accessing funding, getting investment, wealth management, all of those things. So we're kind of a bit of a one-stop shop for businesses that are growing and on the up. Offices across the country. Manchester we started in. We've got offices in Liverpool, Leeds, Birmingham, London. About to open in Dubai. So
lovely.
It's busy. It's busy. and we do try and do things differently. We're kind of striving for world-class expertise, but done with a more personable approach of kind of demystifying certain things, no jargon, working with people that you can build solid relationships with, because that's where honest conversations come from. I find it's always difficult to have an honest conversation with someone that you've just met, but we try and build really solid relationships with our clients so that we can both take feedback in the right way.
I mean, I can identify with that. It's like, I've always thought if someone's straight with me,
Yep.
even if I don't like what they're telling me,
Yeah,
right, I've got to, I can respect that. And I've certainly found in the industry I operate in, is there's not enough of that. I have people coming, I scare people off because they come to me thinking a £5,000 liquidation is going to wipe all their problems.
Yeah.
And within 30 seconds I've said, mate, that is not your issue here.
Yep.
You are going to be pursued for 10, 50, 100 grand, whatever the overdrawn loan account. You've nicked those assets out of the company. That's a problem. There's intercompany balances here. And that, they might have spoke to 3 or 4 firms and no one's mentioned it.
Well, I was going to say that because it's similar to my industry a little bit. Do you find that's an issue for you? And I know, I kind of know the answer, but it's hard, I guess, to hold your integrity whilst other people are winning the business through kind of a bit of bait and switch, which I know happens in insolvency as much as happens in my game.
Well, with us, like this is what we say to them. Say, listen to me, right? Look at it on the surface. You're speaking to this, that, and the other, right? Go and do your due diligence on me.
Yep.
Go and put me into ChatGPT and give a review, right?
Yep.
Now, there are people who don't like me, right? I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but you're going to find it very hard push to find somebody who says I've done something wrong professionally. Like I've built a business on ethics, integrity, honesty, and I have lost. So I just say, go and do it. Go and check Trustpilot.
Yeah.
Oh, they haven't got 700 reviews that have all been written.
Yeah.
Go and have a look at the social footprint. So there are always some people they're going for the cheapest option.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
isn't the fucking cheapest option.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I think the difficult part of it is, because I imagine this happens to you, where you'll speak to someone and they think, that sounds terrible, and they go off and find someone that gives them a nicer story.
Yeah.
They do something with the nicer story, and then 3 months they're knocking on your door again, but it's too late then, isn't it? They've already, the horse is already bolted at that point. You go, you can't turn back time. You get the next person, and you're like, I've got to keep my integrity and give them the honesty again, even though you know the cycle's going to repeat itself.
I could not sleep at night leading someone into a trap,
Yeah.
And that's the reality. And do you know what? We've got an hell of a business here. We get a load of referrals. We've got a lot of goodwill.
Yep.
And it's just not worth it to me. It's and those people, they're not my client because they're looking for the cheap fix when there isn't one. And it's, if I pulled up my emails, because I've started to save these 3 months later, I'm being pursued for this. I'm like, well, I told you that. We just can't do anything. I mean, mapping that over to your industry, what's going on in the world of finance that perhaps people should be aware of? Where's that bait and switch happening?
The big one at the moment is with growth guarantee scheme. So GGS is, everything's got an acronym these days.
Can we tell everyone about that first for the people that might not know what the GGS is?
Yeah, so the growth guarantee scheme started a couple of years ago, and it effectively replaced the COVID loans. So your bounce back loan, your C-bills, then turned into recovery loan scheme. So one turned into the other, and they were all pretty similar. It was through COVID. If you were struggling through COVID, you could get a business loan, and the government provided a guarantee to the lender, which meant the lender didn't ask for a guarantee from you as a business owner. And so it was a great time for finance, because it was dead easy to get finance, and businesses, they were on really good terms. the growth guarantee schemes come out a couple of years ago, and because people's perception is because it's still government backed, it's got the same characteristics. More so because it's how it's marketed by the industry. You know, I probably see an email every day from a broker that says, apply for the GGS scheme, it's ending soon. You get there's a 70% guarantee from the government. Isn't it fantastic? And because it's not, and those things are true in the email, so it's important to say they're not lying, but they're also not telling the truth. They're not saying there's a 70% guarantee from the government, but that is a very backstop guarantee just for the lender. The lender will still want a personal guarantee from you as a business owner.
For the full amount, or?
Differing for different lenders, but,
Yeah.
but the GGS doesn't change that.
Yeah.
So you get the business owner gets no tangible benefit, whether it's GGS or a standard business loan. And some of these brokers, I guess, advisors, are pushing it out there as a way of generating interest, and then they do the bait and switch at the back end of, oh, you didn't get the GGS, but we've got you this instead, or yeah, we've got you the GGS, but, and then don't mention the fact that despite the fact that the government's got the 70% PG, they've still got a PG, and that's wrong in my opinion. It should be wrong in everyone's opinion, by the way.
I think, I mean, one of the things that I see with directors doing when it comes to like funding and finance, especially if they're distressed, is they're going out and speaking to multiple brokers, thinking that's a good idea. Can you sort of like, I mean, that must drive you insane. Could you tell people why they shouldn't be doing that? Why do they think that's a good idea? And what's the end result?
It makes sense why people think it's a good idea, first of all. If I needed money, I would think, right, go cast my net as wide as possible. That makes sense to me as a perception. I guess the thing that people don't realise is that most brokerages have access to the same lenders. So there's only a finite number of lenders out there, and whether you work with Sedulo or another, 90% of our lenders, the next guy has, and vice versa. And there might be a few around the edges where we might work with someone that they don't, and vice versa, but the majority is the same. So if you go to 5 brokers, which I've seen happen loads of times, and then the client doesn't tell one broker about the other brokers, and they're kind of just on this little secret mission, what then happens is each of those 5 brokers make a lending proposal to the same lender. And if you look at it from the lender's point of view, what does the lender think about that? Desperation? Panic? Worry? No lender likes lending to a desperate person. So that's really what happens there. If really what a client should do is work with one broker and decide early doors which one's the best based on, look at reviews, ask for a recommendation or a testimonial, look at the website, see the type of people that they employ. You know, again, you know, the brokerage name is important, but who's the individual within that business you're dealing with? Because you might be dealing with the most reputable firm, but you might be dealing with a 20-year-old kid at that firm. And that person has generally not got the level of experience needed in most cases. What's even more worrying is you deal with a kid who is managed by a kid, and then that kid who's managing is managed by someone who's a marketer, not anyone with financial services experience. And so you're not getting the right level of expertise throughout the process, really.
I mean, one thing that I'm just checking my notes, I do
Yeah,
know some of these things, and it were like, I wanted to really dig into the story of you and Sedulo, and sort of like, how did you become the sort of go? Because that's what you are, isn't it? You know, you are one of the key go-to people for funding in Great Britain.
Yeah, I always get a bit coy when people ask me that type, because it's, you know, I wouldn't say it's embarrassing, but you kind of, I'm probably very British in that kind of, I'm not I'm not someone who's like pounding the chest all the time, but if I look at the space, commercial finance, in my mind, there's like a continuum of people. The reason I think we've had success is when I entered the market, the continuum looks like brokers, and then this end I would call debt advisory, and this end I would call salesy. There's loads of names. I had broker in my mind, but I think that can be, broker kind of encapsulates the whole market really. So at one end you've got debt advisory, and they're experienced people, and they're offering great, they're offering advice, they're taking their time, they're sitting down, they're working through things, and they are giving people options. Typically, that end of the market is only historically been accessible to corporate clients, for whatever reason. If you think about some of the larger businesses in that space, then they only work on much larger transactions for corporates. And then you look at the other end, which is the more salesy area, SMEs, owner-managed businesses, because they don't have access to that corporate debt advisory, get a sales guy. And that sales guy could be a 20-year-old out of college who likes to work in sales. And sometimes he's managed by a guy that was good at that job for 6 months, and he might be 23. And so when we entered the market, I wanted to be more advisory, but I've got a real passion for owner-managed SME businesses, founder-led, non-corporates. And so I saw our niche as being offer the professional debt advisory expertise for SMEs. And I understand why some of the bigger businesses don't do that. The reality is, there's bigger fees and bigger clients, right?
Yeah.
But my passion's always been about helping the communities I exist in. And because of that, and look, we do plenty of corporate transactions. We did a £4 million completion this week. But I take as much joy in the £4 million transaction as I do helping a founder of a business get 50 grand that pays wages on Friday. Because in my mind, and this sounds a bit twee, but that 50 grand pays wages on Friday, which means his 30 staff pay the rent, which means the kids of the 30 staff get to eat. Yeah. And again, that it does sound twee.
I really get that.
Yeah.
I really, because sometimes I see it at the other end of the scale and thinking, fucking hell, these people aren't paying wages on Friday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, who is that going to impact down?
Yeah, what does it actually mean?
People need paying on a Friday.
Absolutely.
It's like, and it is what we do is important.
Yeah.
Like really, really important. And I think understanding that ripple effect, and it makes me mindful of what I say. Like the impact of the advice that's being given is really deep reaching. You know what I mean? You really want to be someone who does some good in the world, don't you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even like in our industries, which, listen, let's call spades.
Yeah.
These industries can be seen as cutthroat.
Yeah,
they can
absolutely.
be seen with some fucking ruthless people in there.
Yeah. What I've just said then, like, it makes it sound a bit like it's being done as a charitable thing, and listen, it's not. The whole idea for me is not being a transactional broker, not thinking, right, you need some money, so here's 50 grand from the first lender that gives us 50 grand, and it's probably the highest commission one.
Yeah.
But building a relationship with that business over a number of years, so we might not get what some brokerages do on day one because we'll look for something that maybe we earn less from, but we'll keep you as a client. You'll come back again. We've helped you pay wages on Friday. In 6 months' time, you might need to buy a forklift truck. In another 6 months' time, you might want to buy your premises. You might need an accountant. Another area that helps us be more relationship driven is because we've got other services we can help people. You might need to do an R&D tax credit. You might want to sort pensions out, whatever, but we can offer a range of services. So being relationship led as opposed to transactional helps because of the wider business that I'm a part of.
There was a saying I fucking read loads of books, sales books,
Yep.
bloody personal development, but there was one that always stuck with me. It says, if you make a sale, you'll make a commission.
Yep.
And if you make a friend, you'll make a fortune.
That's cool. Yeah.
It wasn't mine.
Yeah. You can say it is, don't worry.
Of course I do, yeah. But like, is that not the way? You mentioned salespeople, and listen, I've grown up, I've done the sales, I've done the call centres, and
Same.
real hard work. You know?
I used to sell Kirby vacuum cleaners when I was...
Really?
Yeah,
Do you still remember the song?
I don't remember the song, but I remember the absolute BS I used to have to tell people in the house about it. It was horrendous.
I remember my mate saying to me, he says, listen, he started and he says, can I come round and give you a demonstration? I'm like, yeah. Mate, my missus started crying when he fucking put in the
black bag.
He's like, yeah, we had a little baby at the time. But what I wanted to come to was, I think people nowadays have got a better bullshitometer.
Yep.
Like I know for me, and I won't mention it, but basically I was getting some advice the other week around some financial services, blah, blah, blah. And I just felt like the guy was fucking talking, like he'd said it a million times. This guy was credible, done it a long time, and I just thought at the end of it, I thought, fucking something about him.
Yeah.
There's something about him, I had it the other day, what was it? And again, it was just something I had to buy, right? I had to buy.
Yep.
All I wanted to do, I just wanted to get, and I'm having a conversation, and like these fucking meaningless conversation. And like, I've got to say, I want to have chats with people, right? And I don't want to seem rude, but something that takes, I just want 5 minutes. I want to get out. I want to get back to my kids.
Yeah, and one of the things, because I'm sure you'll have been through it as well, endless kind of sales training type stuff earlier in your career, and you can kind of you can see the conversations from that, and they're kind of textbooky as opposed to like, and they're saying the things they're supposed to say, but because you've been through that same course or whatever, you're like, oh mate, come on, I don't need this. Just show me what it is and I'll buy it.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Do you not think now, though, like, I know we've sort of had chats about this type of thing and, sort of putting yourself out there more. And there are people I know will not like my style, they don't like the way I dress, they don't like the way I talk, right?
Yep.
But they're not my customers, they're not my clients, because if I'm just me, right? And it's took me a long time to be comfortable being me, but I'm 43, by the way.
Okay.
Right? I'm all right with who I am today, and I know it comes across, and that's what I liked about you when I first met you. Big fancy office in middle of Manchester. Yeah. I thought he's fucking normal, him.
Yeah. I think authenticity is so important in life, because you can only pretend to be something you're not for so long, and that's always going to catch up on you. And it happens so often, in not just in business but in every walk of life, really. You probably you think about what you did and said on the first date with your missus, and you're almost pretending to be someone else, aren't you, in the early days? But eventually she's going to find out who you are, and so you either get it out there straight away in terms of this is me, and save some time, really, because you can go through 6 months of bullshit of pretending you're this wonderful human, and at some point they're gonna realise.
I mean, I'm laughing, right, because I met my missus in the local pub.
Yeah.
So she knew I was a lunatic. And we have these jokes now. Like when I met my missus, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I was the type, if you walked in a pub and I was in there, you'd walk out. That's how bad I was. And as we've obviously been together a long time now, I'm thinking, what in your mind back then thought he's going to be a great dad? He's going to be a great match for me. I'm thinking there's something wrong with you, And thankfully today we're actually going to get married in June after a hell of a long time,
wow.
4 kids later. But yeah, it's listen, I think authenticity as well in business, because a lot of us are taught to bullshit. Get the deal at any expense,
The reality is, and you're in the same boat, is I can't afford to service every business anyway. So I can go out there and I can try and be all things to all people. It doesn't serve me anyway. So I might as well be me. Yeah. And the people that are like me for me will come and work with me.
Yeah.
And guess what? I've not got to put on a facade.
Yeah.
I can be the person I am. You get the odd swear word. You get it as it is. We'll go for a beer or a rum and coke if it's me. And there's enough of those. There's enough people that like me for that. You don't have to make things up. You don't have to pretend I'm 7 foot tall.
Who's your ideal customer?
Who's your ideal customer is a real tough one, because we work with such a variety of businesses and a variety of different people. You know, people generally aren't coming to me for money. They're not coming because they want finance, or they are, but there's subcategories of that really. So I put them into two kind of categories really. There's opportunity finance and there's risk management. Okay. So you're coming for money for two reasons. It's one of them. Either you've got an opportunity, I need to buy some stock, I need to invest, I've won a new contract, and they're happier stories. Obviously, it's a good news story, and we're providing money to increase profits and to enable someone to get from A to B. There's the opportunity side, and then there's the risk management side, and this comes down to what we were talking about before about how early do you see the warning signs and make decisions. It might be risk management of, shit, I need to pay wages on Friday, and it's currently Wednesday lunchtime right now. You've not planned that very well, obviously, but it might be that I've looked at my forecasts and I'm gonna have an issue in 3 months paying my VAT. Can you help me with that? We can help with all of them. Is the reality, and they all give me a different buzz for different reasons. Like I've just said before, I love being able to help someone pay wages on Friday, but I also love being able to help a client fulfill a contract and take his business from this to that. Really, the perfect customer is someone that's honest, someone that's straightforward, tells it like it is. Here's the issues, and I can help that person. A more difficult person to help is someone who is kind of almost thinking I'm the lender. You know how if someone goes to a lender directly, they're not giving them the full picture. They're just telling them.
Because you're going to find out the problems anyway, aren't you?
100%. Yeah. As is the lender. Yeah. So the lies don't help anyone, but I understand why people think that to paint a rosier picture. But really, someone will sit down with me and say, Lane, I'm in the shit, or I've got this great opportunity, but for these reasons I can't take advantage of it. So honesty is probably the one key thing that I look for when I'm trying to help someone.
You've talked about in the past about getting funding before you need it.
Yep.
What does that look like? Because people will be watching this or listening and going, well, I don't need it, so...
Yeah, and it sounds like a great sales strategy for me, doesn't it? To say, listen, if you don't need funding, get funding, because everyone should need funding. Everyone gets some funding, because that's my job. But the reality is, and we talked about, I posted about a customer a couple of weeks ago. When you need funding, it's hard to get funding. What happens is, if you think you might need funding in 3 months, but your bank balance is okay today, by the time you need the funding in 3 months, your bank balance has dwindled, you might have a HMRT issue, your creditors have been stretched a little bit, because you've been ducking and diving as a business owner. But the point 3 months ago, when everything was healthier, you'll get more funding options, you'll get better rates, you'll be able to access more lenders. At the point you really need finance, and it is a bit weird, like lenders almost provide an umbrella when it's sunny sometimes. But if I was in the lender's shoes as well, they're making decisions based on them and the best decisions they can make. They want to lend money to businesses that aren't desperate. No one likes a desperate person. So you can access the finance earlier in the process, which means you'll get better rates. Or you can wait till you absolutely need it. You might have some bounced direct debits. You might have some issues, and lenders will look at all these things and they'll take a view of your business. So for me, accessing the finance earlier is much better. Now, that doesn't mean I'm saying to every business, just get some finance, just in case. Really, what business owners should be doing is planning better, working with advisors, working with their accountant, having a set of budgets, working through a cash flow forecast that shows that there might be a problem further down the line. If there's no forecast problem, and you go, there's no risk of it being a problem, obviously don't borrow money.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to dig into that because that's one thing I talk on talk a lot about is that advisory piece for a business owner, because like most, I think this is getting better, but a lot of people think their accountant should just do this, that and the other, and they don't. And you're not paying for them. If you're paying 250 to 400 quid a month, you're getting some compliance done. That's it.
Absolutely.
It's a sausage machine, and that some accountants, that's all they do, and that's how they're keeping you out of jail. But I'll get an inquiry. I'm like, listen, come on, right, give us an age creditor list. They don't really have that, so we're writing it down. I want to see a balance sheet. Well, I've got my last set of accounts that were 18 months ago. I'm like, you're kidding me, aren't you? You're turning over 3 million quid a year. And they don't have a finance function. They have no idea what is available out there. So I know I'm just sort of guiding you perhaps into the accountancy side of things.
No, but I think it is important because they've also got nobody to bounce ideas off, and nobody who's like seen it and done it before. The great thing about your accountant is they probably deal with another 50 to 100 businesses. So the issue that you've got today, they've probably come across it loads of times in the past, and they've seen how it's been meandered through well and badly. You know, a cash flow problem doesn't necessarily mean finance. I think that's a really important thing to distinguish, because you don't always need to solve the problem with finance. You know, you might have a cash flow issue, but can you work out a deal with creditors where you pay them slightly more slowly? But you know, do you work out something with your debtors where they pay you more quickly, and maybe there's a discount involved there, or that kind of thing? You know, your stock turns. There's loads of kind of working capital movement stuff from within a balance sheet, which might mean becoming more efficient as a business means you don't need finance, and that's an important part of it as well. You know, one thing I'm really keen not to do is just like throwing finance down people's throat.
Get it completely.
And being part of a wider business where we have other expertise and other services means that it actually helps us to kind of think more holistically.
And you must have learnt a hell of a lot from everyone else in your group.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that allows you to get better. It's like I say to people, a good insolvency guy will try and help you not use him. You know, do this. I spoke to somebody yesterday, and I told them about a time to pay arrangement, and it's like like a light from heaven has shone down, going, you can do that. I'm like, and they just didn't know what they didn't know, but their accountant hadn't mentioned it either. It was like, listen, there's your tax bill, you got to pay it, and he's like, shit, I haven't got the money to pay it. I'm like, okay. and like most of we probably get 500 inquiries a month. We do about, I don't know, 50, if you will, jobs will come out of that. So there's 450 inquiries we get that don't need insolvency. You know, they need, like you're talking about, well, have you thought about discounts to get your money in? Have you been just speak to, don't not talk to your creditors, because that's going to force them down the sort of enforcement route. What are the major things that are going to put off a funder, Leyton? You know, like the big red flags.
There's a few of them, obviously. You know, not paying your other finance is a big one. So, you know, if almost all lenders will look through bank statements, and if they see return direct debits for other finance arrangements, they obviously don't like that. The biggest elements I think that you can change. So, you know, I'm a big fan of like controllables. You know, listen, if you've got stuck skeletons in the closet, a previous liquidation, issues in the past, it might have been, you know, a default or a CCJ or whatever. There's not a lot you can do about that now, but you know, there are things you can control. A big one for me is telling the story of the business in a way that's honest. We talked about before, lenders find the problems anyway. So highlighting the good and the bad and mitigating the bad. Also, what's the money to be used for? Too many people are like, well, I need 200 grand and don't articulate what the money's used for in a way that helps a lender understand. You know, as an example, a lender might look at a business and go, well, there's no more room to service any debt because all of the profits are being used to service the existing debt. Now, what the client or their broker might not have told the lender is actually this is consolidation. So this 200 grand is going to repay 200 grand of expensive debt with your cheaper debt, and so debt serviceability just becomes easier anyway. So if you think they can service what they've currently got, it's going to get easier. It might be because there's a new contract, but if you can then talk about the money that's going to come in, the extra revenue that's going to be generated, the extra profit that's going to be generated, then it helps to paint a more vivid picture to the lender of a business that might have some issues, but is on its way up, and using the finance enables them to get to a more positive place.
You mentioned about previous liquidations.
Yep.
So can we sort of have a chat about
that?
Yeah,
sure.
Is that going to, if someone goes through an insolvency, is that them on the naughty step forever?
Yeah.
How does it actually play out? Because that's a big worry for a lot of directors I speak to.
Yeah, not at all. There's the good news. There's bad and good news with finance, right? And if you look at the bad news, there's the mainstays, the high streets, are certainly in the owner-managed SME marketplace are not particularly open. The good news is there's loads of other lenders out there. So they closed shop a little bit. Lots of other people came into the place. There's plenty of lenders out there nowadays, and so there's lenders prepared to look at most things and look at the story. Mm-hmm. So, you know, everyone could go, well, a liquidation's not great, right? The reality is, most entrepreneurs have got, most entrepreneurs don't find success on the first roll of the dice. So there's baggage, there's stuff in the background. What was the reason for the liquidation? What happened with the creditors? Who got paid? Who didn't? What was the, it could have been COVID. It could have been the biggest customer went bust. Lots of businesses, and you'll see this every day, go out of business through no fault of their own. And so, putting that director on the naughty step, as you called it, forever, feels pretty harsh. Mm. The flip side is, there are some directors that should be on the naughty step for a long time. Mm. So, it's about devil being in the detail, really, and working with an advisor. And this isn't a Sedulo style, but working with an advisor who can sit down, understand the background and history, help mitigate those problems when putting a deal to a lender. It's much better, I think, for a lender to get a piece of paper that says, here's the issues that you'll see, and here's the mitigants to those issues, as opposed to put the issues under the rug and hope no one finds them. Because guess what? They always get found.
Because a lot of people they just don't understand there are other lenders. They will go to the bank, or they will go to, all the names that we know, and they go, well, they've already said no.
Correct.
And it's like that. There's a whole world out there. Yeah,
and I don't begrudge people for not really knowing that. So I worked 15 years at one of the main high street banks, and you kind of get indoctrinated whilst you're in there to think you're the best thing since sliced bread, and you can help every business that matters. And then when you're out of that, you're like, Jesus, it's like taking the blinkers off and like...
How did you move out of traditional banking? What's the story?
How did I move out of traditional banking? The main reason I decided to move away from traditional banking was because when you work for a bank, you have... I always liken this job to having tools in a tool bag. And when you work for... I worked within the invoice finance market for RBS. And really what I had is one tool. You go, well, the tool was invoice finance, like a screwdriver. and I only had one iteration, so I had one size of screwdriver. RBS's view on what their underwriting criteria, what their pricing is. You go, that one screwdriver, that Phillips head one size screwdriver will fit some businesses really well. But there's loads of businesses that need a flathead screwdriver. And that might be somebody else's invoice finance. It might be Bibby's invoice finance, because there are some skeletons in the closet, or they're more service hungry. Might not be a screwdriver at all. They might need a hammer. They might need a saw. I'm getting a bit too avant-garde with the analogy now, aren't I? But, you know, instead of invoice finance, they might need a VAT loan. They might need asset finance or property finance. But I was sat there, you know, ready to go, really hungry for it. I had my Phillips head screwdriver in my bag, and guess what? I wanted to help everyone.
Yeah.
So if you needed a hammer, I was using my screwdriver. Yeah. And so moving out of that environment to one where you've got more tools, I think means you can give better advice, because you're not limited by what's in your bag.
And I bet it's easier to, like, working for somebody like that. It's like, I've always noticed, like, I don't know, say we're up against a really big firm on something. Yep. We can just move quicker, can't we? We can think about things, we can adjust things. Did you go from RBS straight into Sedulo, or what was the transition?
No, so there was a couple of places in between. I guess one of the things to say first I had a fantastic time at RBS, by the way, and it was like the making of me, really. It's like the training you get there is fantastic. What you learn sets you up for the future. So I'd never say anything bad about RBS as a business, because, you know, they've made me kind of what I am today. So I was at RBS for 15 years and then moved to Aldermore, who were, you know, more of a challenger bank that they're known as, and similar type of role, a bit more senior in that business. But I was there for a couple of years, and you kind of have a couple more tools. One of the other main reasons that kind of I set up, and I've spoken about this quite a lot actually previously, is I got made redundant at Aldermore. So my role, I was regional director at Aldermore, and that role got put from 3 people to 1 person. So I was kind of newest in, and so I was one of the people that got made redundant. And so I wanted to have more control of my future, because
How old was you when that happened?
How old was I when that happened? I must have been 35-ish.
Right, so
something like that.
Rough time to...
35, 2 toddlers, 2 really, really young kids, a mortgage, a company car that they were taking back.
Matt, what was that like then?
At the time, it was horrendous. It was, one of the worst times of my life, certainly professionally, and filled with uncertainty and all those types of things. You look at it as a sliding doors moment of kind of what happened if I didn't get made redundant, and then like, shit, I could still be working at Aldermore. Again, Aldermore, great business as well, by the way. But as a sliding doors moment, it's been pretty positive for me. But I wanted to move away from being at a lender, because you'll see on the news all the time, restructures within lenders are kind of 10 a penny. They happen, every week, every month, pretty much. They're kind of building efficiencies and all those types of things, and people losing their jobs. So I wanted to move where I was more in control. I'm a bit of a control freak, to be honest with you. So I didn't want to be at the behest of like a bigger entity who are like, actually, we've decided that this department doesn't work, despite your performance, the department isn't working. So I'm working in the role I am now. It's completely the opposite to that. And all of my team, I speak to lots of people every week, every day at the minute, about coming to.
Go on, what's your day at the moment? Give us like a day in the life of Jeffs at the moment.
It's super varied, if I'm honest with you, because I wear quite a lot of hats, despite the fact I've now got a pretty big, serious team who are kind of doing deals day to day. I still love doing the deals. So I'll still be doing deals. I got in my car before, and as I got to the car park, I got an email from a lender that was like, "We've got an offer from your client." I was like, "Get in." You know, that's the money they need, and we'd got them an offer last week, but it was expensive. So I shared the offer with them and said, "Listen, don't worry, we'll be getting you better than this, but I wanted you to know that there's a backstop there."
Yeah.
We got them this offer, and I'm like,
And
knew we'd get
what's it like? You know, some people get up and bloody do ice baths and run 20 miles and you know all that. Give us your day. You know, a general day in the life. What's it look like?
Yeah, so two teenage kids, missus. So typically like to do the drop off at school a couple of days a week.
That, yeah.
So try and prioritise that. So I'll always do that a couple of days a week when I can. If I'm in London or in Scotland, it's obviously more difficult. So just trying to plan that. So I'll typically do that. Then I'll be in one of the offices. So our offices are in Manchester, Liverpool, Leeds, Birmingham, London, and I've got a team of people in each office. So I kind of a requirement to be in each of them. So I'm then in a specific office with a team, how they're getting on, reviews, that type of thing, speaking to the rest of the firm, how are other departments getting on, trying to help with that. I try and do a spin class at lunchtime as often as I can.
Okay.
So I'm a bit rubbish at exercise in the morning and in the evening as well. By the time I get home, I'm knackered. And then in the morning, I like to do the kids drop off where I can. So I try and fit in a spin class in the afternoon. And that's something over the last year I've kind of got into the routine of doing. So I've got a spin studio near most of the offices I work from now.
Okay.
So, and I always find work's really hectic. So getting an hour where I can go away and instead of worrying about work, I'm worrying about whether I'm going to pass out on a bike or not. Just takes it away. So typically that at lunchtime, and again, you know, strategy on other departments, working on. We've got a couple of acquisitions on the go at the moment.
Do you guys go out and buy businesses as well then?
Yeah, so we're in the process of acquiring a accountancy practice north of the border currently. So that's something that's kind of ongoing and due diligence and negotiations. We're in the process of opening in Dubai, so I'm recruiting a team to go out into Dubai. So
you perhaps should film another one of these over there.
Absolutely, yeah, makes sense. Should do a few.
And what about night then? You know, when are you finishing at the office? When are you finishing? I mean, I've got two phones, me.
Yeah.
One phone has to go to bed at some stage.
Really? Okay.
Stop. So that's my back phone.
Yeah.
What's your switch off? When do you leave? When do you get home?
Yeah. So I've only got one phone. Don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing. It does always ring. I think my job is kind of an on-call job. So as my missus would testify, I get calls into the night of the weekends, and you know, it's part of the gig. Actually, you know, I don't mind it as much as she does. That's for sure. So, but look, it's pretty flexible. So whilst it's like an on call, there'll be times when you can be more flexible. You go and play golf in the afternoon, or go to take your kids to a college open day, which is something I've been going through a fair bit this year. So it's really varied. It can be different. I usually leave the office about 6, get home, have some dinner, see the missus, and then she'll be watching something on TV. The kids are at an age where they're in their room. Sometimes there's taxiing to do, but most of the times they're just kind of on calls with the friends. And I've probably got my laptop on my knee on the sofa whilst the missus is watching stuff. Yeah, I think you've got to, especially when you're scaling a business. It's not something that you can easily turn off really.
Yeah, I get it. What do you do to wind down?
What do I do to wind down? Like golf. You know.
Are you any good?
No, I'm terrible.
Okay.
Terrible. I used to play as a junior when I was a kid. I used to live in Wales, so some nice golf courses, and so I used to play. My friends from back then will tell you I was pretty shit then as well, to be honest. But I played as a junior, and then put the clubs down for quite a while. And more recently, I've just started to get the bug again. So I got the bug just as we came into winter, so they've been away for a little bit. But my plan this year is to play a bit more golf. I'm a United fan, so that's had.
I mean, that's a rough gig at the moment, isn't it?
It's got better. Carrick's at the wheel now, so it's all wonderful again. I'm probably quite fortunate in that I don't get super high or super low on most things. I kind of fairly consistent with my emotions. So if United are terrible, I'm not gonna throw a glass across the room. When we're great, I'm not gonna run down the street. Yeah. I'm just it's great to win and it's shit to lose, but I'm not the type of person that's it's everything. That helps, I think. But that helps in business as well.
I think so, because I was always one of those guys that I would and overestimate what I'd do in a year, but completely miss how far you can come in sort of 5 and 10 years. And I think you're touching it. It's just being consistent, isn't it?
Consistency, consistent's so important, and just getting the small things right consistently, then small percentage gains are really what matters, because as you get bigger and bigger, there's no real, golden bullet or silver bullet, whatever the saying is, to really level up. It is around incremental growth.
Because that's an interesting thing, because like you say, you've talked about growth a lot. How have you had to change from, like you say, RBS, Aldermore, going into I presume when you started this area of it was a start-up.
Yep.
Now you've got hundreds of staff, you are acquisitions, international. Yep. You must have had to change of a person going through that.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of imposter syndrome across the way. There's a lot of fake it till you make it, and you're like, shit, what, why am I the person making these? I don't feel qualified to make these decisions.
I love that you mentioned that. Yeah.
But it's filled with all that type of stuff. And the reality is, you have to grow along the way. As a business, when I joined Sedulo was 30 odd staff, one office, and on the debt advisory side, it was just me. And it was a bit of a JV to begin with. And that changed quite a long time ago now, but it was just me, and you don't have to worry about managing people and the headache that brings, and also the occasional bit of joy that brings. And your sleeves are rolled up and you're going at it at 100%, and it's quite selfish at that stage. You're just doing it for you and not having to worry about anyone. And then as things grow, you have to learn new skills, and I think you learn them along the way. I'm a big fan of that kind of fake it till you make it. It's got quite a lot of negative connotations to it, but that kind of just learn things as you're doing it.
That's how I learn. It's on the job. Yeah. Show me. Don't tell me. Show me what you're doing. I'm I can pick that up. I'm not a book learner. No. But
if you think about what you've learned over the years, if they said, actually, don't set up your business when you set up your business, wait till you've learned everything you know now. You'd still be learning. Of
course.
You'd still be in that classroom reading a book.
Yeah.
And so the important thing for me is giving things a go. Try it and listen. Not getting too down when you get things wrong. I get things wrong. Yeah. I've got things wrong a lot. Not get too down, but make quick, reactive decisions to getting things wrong. Don't sit on the mistake too long.
Yeah.
Put it right, move on, try not to make the same mistake.
Yeah, learn the lesson, yeah. No, I get it. I mean, if someone is listening to this at the moment and they're worried about, listen, a lot of people worried about cash flow right now. What should they be doing this week? What's the first thing go to?
Yeah, speak to someone. Speak to anyone. Don't keep it to yourself. That is the key. You must have friends, peers that are business owners. Learn from them. They'll have been through the same issues. I think it's really easy to think no one else has ever had this same problem. It's existed hundreds of times by other people, no matter what the problem is. Speak to people. You don't feel so alone. Speak to an advisor. Try and understand your options. Doesn't always mean finance, like I've said. It can be loads of things. You can get yourself out of it through efficiency in your business. But if it is finance, The sooner you make that inquiry, the better.
And sort of leading on from this, where would you say there is a line between smart funding
Yep.
and kicking the can down the road?
100%.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, I think, because I speak to people about this a lot, and there's two schools of thought, really, and I'm firmly in one camp, and I'll explain a little bit. You know, what one camp is director's right. So if he wants finance, let's get him some finance. The other camp is, I know best. I know your business better than you, and you're telling me you want some finance. You're not having some finance because I'm the keeper. The reality of what's right sits somewhere in the middle of that, in my opinion. I'm never going to believe I know someone's business better than them, because I don't. But I do believe my responsibility is to ask questions, is to poke and prod, is to let people know of the consequences of finance, and ask the questions, is finance right for you versus X, Y or Z? If you've already got 5 business loans and it's not worked out and the debt's piling up and you're taking another loan and you're rolling the dice, I don't feel like I should be the keeper of whether you roll the dice or not, but I do think my responsibility is to let you know you are rolling the dice here, and listen, you have to get your head out of the sand and realise the consequence could be you've got another PG. Your other option is to stop now and to seek advice from someone like yourself of where are your options from that point of view. So I'm never going to say to someone no, because I feel that's not my place. Now I feel like they're running their business and it's up to them. But I do feel I've got a responsibility to make sure they're aware and poke and prod and ask some proper questions, not just say, no problem, you want some more finance.
Don't worry,
brilliant.
Be happy. Yeah.
Don't worry. This time next year, Rodders.
Following on then from that, right, to PG or not to PG, that is the question.
That is the question. Yeah. So I actually did a social post on this about 3 years ago, and that was the actual title of my LinkedIn post. And I see lots of different views on this. Listen, limited companies, limited liability, all the rest of it. There's one side of it. If I was a lender, I would always want a client to have faith in his business before I do, because he knows his business better than me. Mm-hmm. There's the two areas of the continuum, I suppose. The reality is most lenders want some form of security. If you look at what a lender looks at, it's actually really, really simple. And they're called different things these days, but when I was going through training, they were called PD and LGD. So PD is probability of default. How likely is the business to go bust? That's the first thing a lender thinks about. And an LGD is loss given default. If a business goes bust, what's the chance of me getting my money back? Mm-hmm. That's it. Every lender's looking at those two things, really. So they're looking at how likely it's to go bust, and it's never zero. Never 0% chance of going bust. It's always a number higher than zero. Then they're looking at, if you do go bust, there's 20% chance you're going bust. So 1 in 5, they're looking at, are we going to get our money back in that instance? So what's the security like in the business? What's the PG look like? The reality is most lenders take a PG as a sign of commitment from the business owner, because as you'll be aware, it's expensive to enforce. So, but it's also my responsibility not to say that to a client, because it's quite irresponsible to say to a client, "Got to sign a PG, but just a piece of paper. Don't worry, they never enforce them anyway." I've seen loads of times where they're enforced.
Yeah, of course.
But just
if they're not given any other option, they've got to, haven't they?
Of course they do. Of course they do. But like before, when we were talking about your business, about how you stick with integrity versus other people out there, you have to stick with integrity. So you have to talk to them about the consequences of this type of stuff, even though some people don't. it's their decision. You know, as a business owner myself, I've given personal guarantees in the past, and you have to take that view as, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is probably the best way of summing it up. Of what am I going to get from this finance? What's the upside? What's the downside? The upside might be business growth. It might be X amount of extra profit, lifestyle improve, all that kind of stuff. The downside could be, well, you've got to make repayments to it first of all. There's some downside. And if the worst happens, the lender's going to come to you, knock on your door personally. It's a very personal decision whether it's a PG, but the reality is most lenders won't lend money without some form of security, whether it's a PG or invoice finance taking a charge on the receivables, or asset finance taking a charge over the asset, or inventory finance, etc., etc. So a lender's going to want some skin in the game. It's down to a business owner to decide whether they're prepared to provide that skin.
Leyton, you've been a really good guest, and I think we could probably crack on for another hour, but I prefer to do it in Dubai.
Absolutely.
Where can people find out more about you? We will ask for show notes. Everything will be in the description of the various platforms that go on. But where can we find out more about you?
You can hit me up on socials, on LinkedIn, all that type of stuff, through our website, email, like all that type of stuff. As you know, I'm dipping my toe in the water a little bit with kind of create some video content myself, so it's a little bit nerve-wracking, but hopefully people will start to see some of that stuff coming out soon. Just put a YouTube channel together. It's titled In Layton's Terms, so the idea is it's a play on the word in layman's terms, and we're trying to demystify and provide jargon-free access to finance information. So find me there, and if it's meant to be, you'll find me. I'm around enough.
Leyton, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Man.
Great
Cheers,
to meet
buddy.
you. See you, mate.